her over, found a place to park. By mistake was running her down that icy interstate. Watch out, boys, me and my truck are going down. Me and my truck are going down on the cold, cold ground.
Well, it's that time again. We can't hope to drive on roads like this, the way we drove last summer. But a lot of us will try. There's really two different groups of drivers out here. One group has a definite risk of having a bad accident before winter is over. The other group has things pretty much under control. The difference between the two groups doesn't have anything to do with hand-eye coordination, keen eyesight, or how fast a driver's reaction time is. The difference between the two groups is how they think about winter driving. There are 7 mistakes drivers tend to make in the winter. I call them the 7 deadly sins, and each of these 7 deadly mistakes has got to do with how you think about your driving. Sin number 1, failure to prepare. If I asked how many of you have extra warm clothes, blankets, a warm hat, gloves, and non-perishable food and drinks stored in your tractor, how many of you could answer yes? What about a flashlight, a snow scraper, shovel, sand for under the wheels, and an extra fuel filter? Can you answer yes to these 2? You can avoid sin number 1 by preparing yourself and your vehicle. Prepare your vehicle by doing a good pre-trip inspection. Prepare yourself by having a well-stocked survival kit on board and always wearing your seatbelt as you drive. As you're getting in and out of the tractor and hooking up, always watch your footing and use the 3-point system. That is, always have 1 hand and 2 feet, or 1 foot and 2 hands in solid contact as you move. Sin number 2, lying to yourself. We lie to ourselves in all sorts of ways. We've all seen trucks in the ditch during a blizzard. But somehow we always manage to convince ourselves that it isn't going to happen to us. And since it isn't going to happen to us, we don't have to adjust our driving all that much. We may slow down a little, but really, a lot of us are more concerned about staying on schedule than anything else. And those four-wheelers all around you, they're just like you. They lie to themselves, too. And they want to stick to their schedule, just like you do. Because of this, a lot of them will take some dangerous risks when they shouldn't be on the road at all. The cure for sin number 2 is to not fall into the trap of believing it can't happen to you. It not only can happen to you, it will happen to you if you keep pressing your luck. Here's another thing that drivers are always lying to themselves about. If I just go a few more miles down the road, I'll run out of it. Don't confuse what you're wishing will happen with what is really happening. Talk to other drivers on the CB and listen to the radio. Ask your dispatcher when you call in if there are any other drivers in the area and what they're telling him about the weather. Most of all, use common sense. And speaking of using common sense, that brings us to sin number 3, overconfidence. When we were rookies, we may not have been very good at handling the rig, but we all had a healthy fear of ice and snow. As the years went by, we got a whole lot better at handling the rig. And as this happened, we started to go a little faster and a little faster until after a few years you see us going 70 miles an hour in the middle of a blizzard. Just think how safe we would be if we mixed all the driving skill we've picked up over the years with the same fear and respect of ice and snow we had when we were rookies. Again, it's about how you think. Sin number 4, not understanding the physics involved. The only thing that allows you to speed up, slow down, or turn is the friction of your tires against the road. This is called a friction coefficient. The lower the friction coefficient, the less traction your tires have, and the less control you have. The first thing that happens in this kind of weather is that the tires lose most of this traction on the road. The cure for sin number 4 is simple. Since your friction coefficient is so low, and since your truck is so limited by what it can do, you need to drive way ahead of yourself and to make all turning, accelerating, and braking movements very gently. In other words, don't ask your truck to do something it can't do, something it doesn't have enough traction to do. And the reason drivers sometimes get themselves into a position where they could potentially lose control leads us to sin number 5, bad judgment. Let me ask each of you this question. You're on the road. Conditions start to deteriorate. The road turns to glare ice. You slow way down and make it to an off-ramp. You find a place to park your truck, but there are no services of any kind. A few miles down the road, you know there's a major truck stop with good food, hot showers, and a TV room for drivers. The forecast is for the bad weather to last for at least another 24 hours. How many of you can honestly say that you're not going to try to make that truck stop? The point is, just because you're bored and inconvenienced, that doesn't make the tires grip the road any better. As you're driving, set a minimum speed such as 30 miles per hour for yourself. If conditions are so bad that you can't comfortably drive at even that slow speed, park it. Period. You'll never regret being too careful. But a whole lot of drivers do end up regretting not being careful enough. Again, it's about how you think. And this leads us to sin number 6, lack of knowledge. When you see drivers running down the road in a blizzard just like it's a sunny day in July, this is a sure sign that they really don't understand what they're up against. Knowledgeable drivers change their driving by slowing way down for curves and changing lanes gradually. They try to keep a steady speed and time lights so they can keep moving. They watch for changing conditions and adjust their driving accordingly. They know that bridges and overpasses will be even slipperier than the road, so they ease up about 50 RPM as they cross them. They're watching for melting snow to turn to ice when the temperature is close to 32 degrees. They know that hard-packed snow can be dangerous to drive on, and strong side winds can cause them to lose control. Driving in these types of conditions may cause traffic to clump up into small packs. Smart drivers drive in the open space between these packs. Smart drivers also give snowplows plenty of room and are watching for them to swing out for bridge abutments and other obstacles beside the road. They understand that the snowplow operator has his hands full with what he's doing and doesn't have time to watch out for them. And speaking of understanding what's going on around you as you drive, that leads us to sin number 7, not seeing the big picture. The world is not going to end if you're late with the load because you were delayed by bad weather. We've been talking about changing your thinking. Well, let me tell you, if you think that your dispatcher or the customer is going to be disappointed or angry when you call them up and tell them you're going to be late, just think how they're going to react when you call them up and tell them their load is lying on its side in a ditch. They have to be responsible enough to understand that weather delays will happen from time to time. And you have to be safety conscious enough to know when to pull the plug and call it a day. There are some things you can't control, but there are a lot of things you can control. You can't control the weather, but you can control your own actions in this type of weather. Don't be a victim to one of the 7 deadly winter driving sins. The drivers with the best chance of avoiding a winter driving accident are the drivers who are best at thinking themselves through this type of weather. In the end, it's your conduct and the decisions you make that will determine if you get safely through the winter. And that conduct And those decisions are going to be determined by how well you think your way through each problem you face. Before winter is over, you're going to have to make hundreds and hundreds of these decisions. And it only takes one wrong decision to put you in the ditch. So the biggest part of that decision-making process always has to be this one question. Is it safe?
Watch out, boys. Me and my truck are going down.